Well, we're back here again, and we're on the Shinglemill Creek Trail. It's a natural preserve, part of King County Parks and Recreation on Vashon Island in Washington State. And I'm non-monogamous Mark, and I'm here with my partner. Who are you?
I'm Chris.
And so we're going to talk about the why and how of create non-monogamous community. But we're also then going to be talking about this hike we're on, and throughout the video, I've got lots of photographs I've taken. I've got little short video snippets I've taken. And so I'm going to edit those into the video. And some of it will just be my voiceover, so you won't be looking at me throughout the whole course of the video. But if you like how I've done this video and you want to be able to keep being able to watch these videos, then be sure you take and like and subscribe to my channel. When you subscribe, click on the little bell so that you will get notifications as to when I make another video. And so now to go ahead and get started, we're going to talk about the why and how to create non-monogamous community. You see, I've been non-monogamous now for 13 years, and that was, wow, it's like I had a monogamous marriage for 27 years. Then my wife and I opened our marriage up, and then I've been non-monogamous then for 13 years. You know, and when I first became non-monogamous, a lot of people would think like, well, there's not like very many people out there. I can't find people. People tell me all the time, there's just no non-monogamous people around where I'm at, and I'd be chatting with people on the internet and what have you. And, sometimes you really do. You need to create your own community, but I assure you, there are lots of non-monogamous people out there. All the studies have been done over and over again in the last 5 years indicate that in the United States alone, there are 12 to 15 million people that are ethically and consensually non-monogamous. And so it's not a small number at all. When you just figure there's 50 states in the United States, and you divide that 12 to 15 million people out, there's a lot of us. And the thing is, though, is that most of us are the same place that the LGBT community was 30 and 40 years ago for all the same reasons, and that's kind of living our non-monogamous life in the closet, and that makes it really hard to connect with other non-monogamous people. And so we're going to talk about why and how to create non-monogamous community. But first I want to start out by saying that if you are going to actually create that community, you have to understand that chances are you're going to at some point be outed. So, and people that you work with, and your neighbors and your relatives, or people that are your friends now, they're going to know if you develop and actually are the forefront of creating a non-monogamous community in your area. And you don't have to be in the forefront. I'm going to give you tips on how to do it where nobody ever needs to find out necessarily that you're behind the scenes. But you see, now, Chris, you're not really non-monogamous, are you?
No.
And what are you doing in this community?
Supporting you, and it's a great community. That's
right. And Chris is monogamous. And she became, before my wife passed away, she became very good friends with my wife. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, because I have here in Seattle, I have kind of, when I got involved in the non-monogamous community here, there really was not much of a community of people that I could relate with. And that is people who are just normal, everyday human beings, or professional, educated people and things of that nature. And so that's where I really got involved myself, to actually help to create some of that community here in Seattle. And of course then, now that was 13 years ago, and Chris and I have been in our relationship for just about 11 years. Yeah. And so she was, there from the early days as well. And we've really created a nice community here in Seattle. So the thing is, though, now, Chris, when so many people are really afraid that they're going to be outed and identified as being non-monogamous, and I certainly had those fears, and now it's like, no, I want to be out. Because I want people to know that there are really decent, wonderful people out there that are non-monogamous, instead of people that, well, they're all snakes, they run away and hide in their closets and all that kind of stuff. And Chris, so, when you first got in your relationship with me, it's been a progression for you as well. Because you didn't want anybody to know that I was married when you got, and I don't know, you may know more incidences than I do, but I only remember one incident that you really had, and that was someone that is or was a friend of yours on Facebook. I think an old neighbor of yours.
Oh, yes.
And one night, she's still a friend.
Yeah.
One night we were on the couch in the living room and sitting there, and she started to sending you messages, and because she went and checked out my profile.
Yeah, she started sending me messages warning me about you.
Yes.
Yes.
And because she went and checked out my profile, and so then it's like, oh, Chris, do you know what's going on? You know, and she was concerned about Chris, and oh my gosh, Chris, you're just going to be abused, and you're going to be used. She really felt bad for you.
She did. She was really concerned about me. I had to explain to her that I was well aware of what was going on, and I had no problem with it.
Yeah, it was ethical and consensual, and you know, it was okay. And she just could not understand that, you know. But so, have there been any other encounters that you've had over the years?
Not really. Not really. I mean, a couple people have thought, oh, he's using you, or...
You poor thing.
You poor thing, but he's not. I try to explain that to people, that in this relationship, I knew what it was getting into it.
It's ethical and consensual.
Ethical and consensual. He has never hidden anything from me. I've known from day one, and it's been my choice to get into the relationship and to stay in the relationship.
Now, if you'd like, I can edit this part out of the video, but let's talk about just briefly. You were married before you met me, and your husband was dead or died before you met me.
He passed away.
Passed away.
Yes.
Now, that was a monogamous relationship, right?
Yes.
Now, does that mean that he was totally monogamous?
Oh, not by a long shot, I found out.
Yeah, that's what you found out after things blew up.
Passed, yeah.
After he passed, because his girlfriend was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of his fishing trips with his buddy were not with his buddy.
Yeah, and so, yeah.
And not fishing trips.
They weren't all fishing trips.
No.
And so, yeah, and so, you know, it's like people who are involved in monogamy are often, they don't even know it, that their spouse or their partner may be unethically and unconsensually non-monogamous.
Yeah.
And that's the difference here, is that, you know, we want to be ethical and consensual in being non-monogamous. And so there are 12 to 15 million of us that are ethical and consensual, and I'll bet that there's 30 million of people out there that would like to join our community. And so that's why it's important for you to watch this video as we talk more about why and how to build community. But just know that you could be outed. And if you are outed, it's like, it's not going to be any big deal. I remember one of the things, Chris, is that you were really concerned because you work in a very conservative field.
Yes.
And you work for a very conservative company, and it's a big company and all this. And you were, you know, like, oh, I can't let anybody at work know that I am in this sort of involved with a married man.
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't that true? Now,
and still a little bit to this day.
but do people at work know?
The people in my office, it's a small office, so my immediate coworkers in my office, they all know.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, she kind of weathered that, and people typically find, as people get exposed in their non-monogamy, that it's a lot of times it's just like no big deal.
They were more curious than anything else. They're just more curious.
And there's always going to be people out there that are like the person that I used to be, and that is a self-righteous, pious, judgmental Christian person. And they're going to then condemn, you know, and ridicule and just think it's just an awful, terrible thing, you know. But those are very few people. You haven't even had any of those kind of people, have you? No, not really. I've had one person that still doesn't totally understand it, and she's very conservative and thinks that I'm being used in some way, but it's the way she is. So let's get off of that and talk about why create non-monogamous community. You see, because there's a lot of people out there that would like to find a community to be in and to be a part of. And so, you know, the first thing is that you start to bring these people together. Now, we like to bring people together as being in the ECNM community. They're neither necessarily polyamorous or swingers or friends with benefits or BDSM people or whatever, but there's a large community that we like to put under the umbrella, just like the lesbian, bisexual, gay, transvestites, and queers, and all those people have come under the LGBTQ plus umbrella. because they find that they pull together and create a better community by being together. And that's why I encourage you to pull together, and my company, Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, created the ECNM, Ethical and Consensual Non-Monogamous umbrella for you to come under. So when you go out and you create community, I encourage you to create ECNM community, not polyamorous community, not swinging community. Those are all wonderful communities. But let's broaden it out there a little bit so we create some camaraderie and some strength. And so that's the first thing, is that you'll find that why create this community, that as you do, you'll find that, yeah, then the people will come along and they'll join your community that are like in the closet. You know, they don't want anybody to know. But if I'm hanging out with other people that are non-monogamous, you know, that'd be fine. Like, you'll find swingers go to swingers parties. You know, polyamorous people, they'll get online and connect with polyamorous people and those kinds of things. And so the first thing then is that the people are out there wanting community to happen.
Yeah, yeah. And even like me, being monogamous but involved with a non-monogamous man, I like that community too.
Yeah, and
because I can.
Go ahead.
There's no judgment. They're not judgmental at all.
You know, and I just think about, like, for instance, back at civil rights, when, you know, the whole civil rights actions took place back in the, 60s and 70s, you know, that when that happened, there were a lot of white people that joined that community. Because they just wanted to support that community, and they wanted to really show that, hey, you know, this is not a bad, these are not bad, awful people. These are great people, and we want to support these people.
Yeah.
And we'll find the same thing when we start building our community as well. There may be people that are monogamous that want to be part of what we're building, because they just want to be able to say, yes, these are good people. These aren't terrible, awful people, and we want to support what they're doing. And so there again is a good reason to be part of the ECNM community. And so you'll find people that's, you know, the LGBT community found that very same thing. There are a lot of straight people that are involved in LGBT activities. And you just go to a gay rights parade, you know, a pride parade. And you find lots of people that go to the pride parade that are straight.
There's a lot of us there with our free mom hugs. We're straight, but we're offering our support and love to those that need it.
And we need to do the same thing for our ethical and consensual non-monogamous community. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of people that just want to be able to take and say and make a stand and say, hey, we support this, because there's nothing wrong with people living their authentic lives. They're being ethical and they're being consensual. Then why not let them live their lives?
Exactly.
And so you know, why, you know, and also another why is to create this community, is that when you step out and create your community like this, is that you start to be looked up as kind of a leader in this community. And that's a good way for you just to make connections, even if you don't see yourself as kind of a leader type person. But, you know, you've done that in not the non-monogamous community, but in another community that you belong in. You're not like a charge forward leader type person.
No.
And yet you have done some amazing things in the community. Do you want me to mention that community?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead and you tell them.
Well, there's the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
I lost my husband to suicide, so as a way of healing and as a way of helping others, I stepped up and became very involved in suicide prevention and awareness.
Yeah, and a lot of people then looked up to you, and you provided a huge amount of support and benefits, and you actually got that organization, which is a national organization, you got that organization started here in Seattle.
I did. Me, myself, and a couple of other people were responsible for bringing them into Washington.
And she's not really active with it now,
No.
a lot, like she's
bit.
a little bit, but not real super active, but yet the organization is thriving here.
It is. It really is.
And so that's when you step up and build the non-monogamous community in your area, then you'll find that maybe there'll be a time that you can always step back, but other people will come along and they'll allow that to thrive.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, so that's so much on the why, but how? Well, there's lots of ways when it comes to how. And I'll mention just a few of them here. But one of the things that I want to encourage you is to build your community with activities. Because we were just at lunch a little while ago, and we were talking about an organization here in the Seattle area. They've got thousands of members, and yet with thousands of members, it's a non-monogamous community. With thousands of members, they can't hardly get 10 people to show up for an event, an activity.
And it's the same thing over and over. They don't have activities.
They don't have activities. They get around, sit around a table and talk, and that's what's gone on for years. It's gone on now for, let me see, about 7 years that organization's it's gone on, and really wonderful people. But what really takes people to get the people involved and to get them out is that you have to create some activities. Or, it's okay once in a while to get together like in a coffee shop and just sit and meet and talk and what have you. But you don't want to do that very often. I'd say no more than 25% of the things that you actually do should be something like that.
Oh, I agree.
And so the rest of the time you want to have activities, and it doesn't take that much. It could be just one activity a month. Think of something that you like to do. I like to go hiking. I like choose an activity. Something that you like to do is something that you would like to do once a month. Now, this gives you another reason why to create this community, because if it's something that you like to do, things in life today, life is busy. Time goes by fast. It can fly by so fast. There would be a month, 2, 3, 4, and then 6 months has gone by. And I was going to go hiking this year.
Didn't do it.
Or I was going to I was going to take and go bowling this year. And suddenly 6 months have gone by, and you just haven't done that. And so I want to encourage you in creating community, to do things that are active, that you would like and enjoy doing anyway, that you wouldn't mind doing once every month. Because that way, when you go out and you do whatever you're going to do, if no one else shows up, because at first sometimes that's going to happen. And if no one else shows up, at least you show up doing something you enjoy doing, and you're going to have a good time. Okay? And then make sure that you do that consistently, once a month. Like I said, like going hiking, for instance. Right. It's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. Doesn't cost anything, but it's easy not to do it. Easy to just, for my case, sit there and keep working. In front of the computer. And so it's so easy not to do, but if you schedule yourself, that's, I guess, the next thing is a good point, would be to take and actually put it down on a schedule. I put down this hike on the schedule about a week and a half ago, and I had no idea what the weather was going to be like. One of the things in Seattle we learned, and growing up in Seattle, is that you don't plan around the weather. You just plan what you're going to do, and if it was raining, we'd be out here today in the rain. Now, when I did check out and found this particular hike, I looked for a hike that, in case it did rain, there's a lot of canopy overhead. Tree canopy overhead, so that chances are we wouldn't get just drenched and poured on it. And with all the tree canopy, that we'd be able to stay reasonably dry and warm. And as it turned out then, when, I looked at the weather report last night, it turned out that it's just actually going to turn out only 10% chance of rain today. And it's just absolutely beautiful.
It is. It's gorgeous.
It's February 1st, and it's cold. I mean, it's 40, I think they said it was 43 degrees.
Yeah.
And so it's cold, but, we're out here hiking, and I have a light jacket on. You got a heavier jacket on, but you're trying to unzip and everything, because we're both getting pretty warm.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely gorgeous, as you are seeing in the photos that I am taking and the short videos that I'm making as well. It's just absolutely beautiful out here. And so I would also encourage you to just go ahead and try to do activities that are outdoors. Because, we really do far too much indoors. And people, if they can show up for an outdoor activity, people love showing up for an outdoor activity. And so I would encourage you to go ahead and create your activities outdoors. And so is there anything else? I'm going to talk about how to actually create community and where to find community, how to promote what you're doing. But is there anything else that you want to talk about before I finish up with that, about creating community, how to create community?
I don't think so. Just be consistent.
Consistent.
Don't give up if nobody shows up for your first couple outings.
Yeah, just keep doing it. Just knowing that you're having an enjoyable day.
Exactly.
And it's something that gets you out yourself and gets you out doing something that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then the next thing is that once you create this community, there's a number of different things that you can do to actually find other people. There are groups out there, like I'm fairly actively involved on FetLife, and then I post things on FetLife. And like they have an events tab on FetLife, and I posted this hike. Now nobody joined us, but that's okay. And so, but that's an avenue for you to post things. Same thing with swinger sites. There's some of them where you can post activities. I don't know, because I'm not that familiar with a lot of the swinger sites. But and then a really good, well, then of course Facebook. I didn't even think about Facebook,
Yeah.
but that's a great place to. I should have posted this hike on Facebook. And again, don't limit it to non-monogamous community, but be upfront. That's where when I take and start creating a community in an area, I'm very upfront about the fact that okay, I'm ethically and consensually non-monogamous in my lifestyle, and I encourage other people to join me on these activities who are also ethically and consensually non-monogamous. But we don't limit it to people who are ethically and consensually non-monogamous, because then we just want people like that are monogamous. We want them to understand and to know that there's likely to be flirting that'll go on. Like I started actually this hiking group 6.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And here in Seattle, and then I just haven't for the last 5.5 years. I haven't done anything with it, But we had really nice little groups of 10, 15 people that would go hiking with us, and so it was a lot of fun. But people, there were non-monogamous people, and we have fun and we flirt and what have you, and people then even hook up and date and so. People who are used to that, people who are like monogamous and vanilla people and things of that nature, they need to just be able to know that when they're with our group, that this, it's a fun group, and they got to know that there'll be people that'll be flirting, and there'll be people that are, even going to be hooking up and having fun, and it's okay because we're ethically and consensually non-monogamous. Now, then it gives a person who's vanilla a chance too. If they're like a vanilla monogamous person, they can join in on the fun. They can come along and just flirt and have a good time. That doesn't mean it has to turn into anything. They can just come and have a good time. But you want to make sure that your people know that this really is a group of people that are, for the most part, ethical and consensually non-monogamous, so that they're here to really enjoy one another and not afraid to flirt and just enjoy one another in those ways. And they'll be talking about, different types of relationships and things of that nature. Particularly if it's an activity where there's a lot of conversation involved, like going on a hike or like going bowling. There's lots of conversation and those kinds of things. And so people talk, and that's great because that's how you create community. That's how people then develop relationships. And so anything else that can be done as far as how they could promote. Facebook would be a great avenue for that as well.
Yeah, Facebook page, FetLife, Instagram,
any of the social media. Facebook or FetLife is a social media for adults. I used to think it was just for people into BDSM, which I'm not, and I stayed away from it for a long time. I found it's really just a place for a lot of kinky and sexy adults to go to. You'll find community on FetLife for just all kinds of different sexy people, even monogamous people there are on FetLife as well. And so thank you very much for taking your time to enjoy this video. Again, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel. But also get on my email list. You click, there's a link down there in the description. Get on my email list so that you can kind of keep on top of all the other things that we have going on as well in creating wonderful non-monogamous lives. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.